Sandra,
Here comes
Jones,
Morgan
Kelly,
stepping in.
Morgan, Sinette,
Sinette says
Kelly.
still vibrating.
Ooh.
Vincent said, "What? Did you hear the
Can you
sound
hear it?
waves from the bell?" Vincent said he heard sound waves from the bell just then. And Sinette says she's still vibrating. Yeah, it was vibrating the whole table. Sinette, it sure was.
Shaking it down, shake down time.
Look, that's a sign of all of us raising our vibration this morning. I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm reading it from a book called To Know the Knower.
Okay.
And I was just browsing through some books this morning and ran across this and opened this page, and here it was. I said, I know where that question came from. It says, do you want to know God as he is? Or do you only want to know God as your mind tells you he is? So when God appears, are we going to like what appears to us? When God reveals, are we going to like what is revealed to us? Are we going to be able to accept what is revealed to us?
Here it is. He's invisible, but he's constantly appearing.
Yes.
He's constantly appearing in the invisible, but yet he is constantly appearing. And I'm talking to him, and you're listening to him, and he sounds just like us.
Yeah, because he is us, isn't he?
That if you before you come in the house, take off your shoes, leave all judgments behind, all religiosity behind, all brick and mortar teaching insight that you've had about religion, church, and everything, leave behind. Go straight home, down the middle path road. Don't get distracted from the left or right side. Go straight. And you will see God, the invisible, become physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that way.
Yeah.
You got some more?
Go ahead.
I had the after effect of spirit experience with him, or with my true self. My wife and I went to a restaurant yesterday, and we hadn't seen these people that own the restaurant in a while. And this morning, when I was up, these things come and they disturb my sleep. I had the experience of going back in the vision and standing in front of everybody in that restaurant and could tell them, like I'm telling you guys now, not one of us will be left out of heaven. And I want to tell everybody that I meet. Yeah. And I was shown this morning, I was up this morning, not one of us will miss heaven, because heaven is the eternal self.
Yes, it is.
The big lie is that I'm missing heaven because I didn't do or say or act a certain way according to brick and mortar, paper and ink.
Religion. Yes.
Yeah.
Religion.
Now, I saw this. Another thing that I'm aware of is that enlightened and waking up to your true self is totally beyond what you've been taught about Jesus in the book. If I see you in person or in your essence, if I see your essence and experience the essence that I am in you, you as me, heaven is what we all are made out of and what we are of, with or without popular or less popular demand. I saw everybody that I was going to meet. If I go out today, I can tell everybody that I meet that they will be in heaven and that they're already there, based on the fact You go in the 60, if you're gonna go Bible and you go 16th chapter of Luke, you see where both rich man and the beggar was eternal. And that eternal essence that we all are has not one thing to do with the way we teach or the way we hear preachers preach it. And this is something that I have experienced, and I know that I'll stand before every guillotine and every crucial event that could happen to a physical body. I could tell everybody that I meet, I'll see you in heaven. I'll see you there. And matter of fact, not in the past tense, I'll see you there now because you are an eternal being.
Yeah, yeah. So Vincent says this. So if he's us, is he really invisible? He's hidden, but not hidden.
To those that think in the mind, they have a mental concept of him.
Mm-hmm.
But those that are of the heart see totally different.
Yes. So he says also, or is it that he's out of the sight of the mind? And then I am now retraining my mind. Yes, yes. In plain sight, as Israel says. Yes, I often say that God is hidden in plain sight by us. We are what is hiding God. And therefore, God is visible and invisible at the same time.
If I go to a mountain, the highest place, Everest mountain, and look for him, I will miss him because where I just came from, he was. And when I get there and start looking for him, he's there, but he's in another form.
Actually, you would not see him because it was he climbing the mountain.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the answer. Behind every answer, inside of every answer is him, and inside of him is every question and answer.
You know, we say these things.
Good morning, Gerald. Good morning.
Good morning, Gerald. So glad to see you on here, sweetheart. So we say these things, not really fully accepting the awesomeness of it, the profundity of it, that to have this life that we are, to be this life that we are, and to accept that this very life that we are is God, is mind-blowing. The mind has trouble accepting that because the mind still is looking for God. And it's like that question I just asked. Do you want to know God as he is, or do you want to know him as your mind wants to see it? So our mind wants to see God as some separate, supreme being, all-powerful being, which God is. But that is not how it is revealing itself to us.
I met a couple in the restaurant yesterday, and he and his wife were sitting in the back of the restaurant, and they heard the owner call me Rev. And when I turned around in that direction, he waved at me, and I went over and talked to him about, I hope he's home with us today. What was his name? You remember his name?
Adrian. I can't remember the last name. His name is Adrian.
Right. And let me tell you something. I had a chance briefly to talk to him about the music on the other side and how the different notes are in different colors. There is a knowing part of you that cannot be explained with words.
Yes. Yes.
This part that I am speaking from is in a perfect knowing state without reasoning. Sophisticated reasonings is trying to find something in the scriptures or in the book. If it's not, hear people say, if it's not in the book, I'm not gonna believe it. It ain't in the book. Bush porky beans. Well, why don't you stop eating them? It ain't in the book. Pintos. Why don't you stop eating them? It ain't in the book. Gasoline for your car. Quit putting it in the car. It ain't in the book. It ain't in the book. It ain't in the book. You might well just quit existing because it ain't in the book. You can't do that. You can't do that. Come on, wake up. Come on. There's some preachers and brick and mortar that are fussing right now about who's going to heaven and who's going to hell because they don't live a certain way.
Yeah.
I asked God and I asked my eternal self, for a gift, and the gift that I'm asking him for is him asking through me. I would like to see everybody that I meet and talk to, with or without popular demand. I'd like to see everybody when I get there that I've met on earth, and the ones that I haven't met, I'd like to get acquainted with them, because I am telling you, there is a back door to hell.
Well,
And I'll drink on that.
You're drinking a lot. Are you okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're taking a drink after everything you say. Mm-hmm. So that says the total recognition and acceptance of heaven is us now. All the battles
it
gone.
Is.
Just
it
peace.
is.
It really is. And I know that for those of us who have been clinging to the concept of heaven as a place, mm-hmm. that's disturbing.
It is. It is.
Because some of us have, especially those of us who've been, I'll say, drenched in Christian doctrines. Mm-hmm. We often have been clinging to the hope of going to a place, this perfect place where we won't have to deal with anything anymore, won't have to suffer anymore. And so to hear that heaven is us now, the mind has trouble accepting that, and that's where that cognitive dissonance comes in, where we're trying to hold on to one and the other is coming in, and one resonates with us and the other gives us much more of a good feeling. So there's this dissonance that takes place in us, but it is still true that, and it doesn't take away from the perfect place.
No.
But it makes you live in the now and know that heaven is now, and not, you don't have to die to go there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When you fully walk in total awareness, fully spontaneous awareness, you will find out that the part of you, or the part of us, that knows that when the body lay rest in the grave, that there is another part of you that cannot die. Yes. That knows that that part of you that cannot die is God. It's your God identity. It's your real self that knows this.
Before you move forward, there's some people asking questions about the back door to hell. You mentioned that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a back door to hell. So just, can you elaborate on that?
Here's the back door to hell. Come out the front door and go around the back, and you're still going back in the house. Here's what I'm saying. You have to look beyond the limitations of the physical finite mind to understand. If David said, if I make my bed in hell,
he's there.
He's there. Mm-hmm. So even in hell, you cannot escape. The presence
of God is there.
You cannot escape God. Mm-hmm. The back door to hell is that, here it is, the mystical side of it.
I just got it.
Okay, go ahead.
The back door to hell is when you're in hell and all of a sudden you wake up in the midst of hell and that door is there to walk out of it. You don't have to stay in it. It's what you're saying. And nobody will stay in it, even when they leave their bodies. There are so many astral planes and different levels of evolution, even after you leave the body. That's what you're saying.
I see God, if I may say it metaphorically, reaching in hell with everybody thinking at the end of this evolution and pulling everybody out that is eternal.
Because the hell has been the mind, been lost in the separation mindset is where hell is.
Can't do that if you're in this.
No, we can't.
You can't do that in that, because there's a law. God, Jesus,
so you're talking,
jumped the law, jumped the fence. You put a fence around here, jump it every time. Yeah. What I'm telling you now, I'm going to be honest with you. Just come out and tell you. I'm talking about a grace and a mercy that is unfathomless, if I may say it the right way.
Fathomless.
Or fathomless.
Whatever.
What I'm trying to say is, I have found out that there is a side to God that is beyond reasoning, reading, and belief
Yes.
beyond facts.
Beyond belief.
All right, here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm
Belief.
saying again.
Yes,
I'm going to
sir.
say it to you
Yes,
again.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This Christ that we are can never be dissipated or wiped out.
That's right.
Take a deep breath with what I just said to you. There's no way that the eternal Christ that you are can cease to exist.
Exactly. And Buzz says this idea of heaven robs us of our happiness today and now, which is the real heaven. And then Vincent says, I often see God in the now, so it is safe to say that we, the self-identity, is constantly catching up with what is already true. Yes, that's absolutely true. And then Vincent says, God is the back door, front door, and windows. In fact, Jesus said, I am the door.
I said something last night about pulling the cover off of God.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the cover, pull off. Individuality is duality.
Yes.
God, if everything was to be wiped out, God would be individuality, which is individuality is what we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to 10.
Because we have the nature of
Because
our Father.
we are.
We often duplicate ourselves.
Right. So now I'm speaking in the mystical side of our true self. I sat down and I looked for God and I found him. But I didn't find him because I was looking. It was him looking and found himself as us. No problem. No problem.
Wow. Kim says, I have observed family and friends living in hell because of not forgiving themselves and others. Oh, Kim, I tell you, honey bun, that is so true.
One of the reasons why we have trouble forgiving ourselves is because we haven't found out or seen by insight that we are the unlimited forgiveness.
You make me think of this as well. Many of us have trouble accepting that we are that we say is God. Not so much
without the ego.
Or
with it, it's thing.
Yeah, and not so much, I want to say, not so much the God in the sky, but I'm saying we are that same essence. Whatever God is, we are that same essence. And they had a saying out some time back called "What would Jesus do?" And they had the little bracelets that you could get, and they said, "What would Jesus do?" So people walked around, and whenever they had an encounter with someone else or a situation, they would ask themselves, "What would Jesus do?" and then try to do that. But it's not doing what Jesus did; it's being what Jesus was. And so if we're going to be what Jesus was, that means we're going to be a man or a woman who has come into the understanding and the epiphany, the discovery, the realization of who they actually are in the earth. And then moving from that knowing. And that may not take you all over the world to speak to thousands or millions. It may not take you into a place where you're healing every sick person in the hospital. It may make you just really, really loving to the person that you're living with in the house.
There is a mastermind. There is a knowing that I've been experiencing for years, and I know what it was, but I know now. The knowing, the knower.
The knower, yeah.
Is not trying to explain itself. Every one of you that's listening to me now, if I would go back into brick and mortar, I would say, I will see you in heaven. I told my dog last night that I'm looking forward to seeing her in heaven, and she's laying right behind us. She knows that we're talking about her. I will see you and every one of your loved ones. I had the experience last night to look and see everybody that I saw in the hand of Jesus in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in heaven that I saw there was there without a volunteering. They were there because I all of a sudden experienced the awesomeness of eternal forgiveness and the grace of God and the mercy of God. I even saw people who had been in hell, in their own psychological hell, leave it and was in heaven.
Is it possible that God could ever be offended?
Yeah,
That's the question.
It looks like on one side he does, and another side he's not.
Is it possible for anything that we do to ourselves or in this realm to actually offend God when God understands this is all an illusion that we've all constructed? Pearl says this. I started calling Paul. She says, who or what told us that there was a hell for a front door or back door in our reality?
That's right. We use that metaphorically, but it's like a bucket with a hole in it, Miss Pearl. It doesn't hold any water.
Exactly.
We are. He is. We are. Now, I'm almost to a point where the conversation, I can't get around this thing. I can't get around this thing. I want to tell everybody I meet that if I get to heaven, you'll be following, and if you get there, I'll be there.
And then it won't be a there.
It won't be a there. I saw everybody that I meet. I said, well, and I said, I want this gift. I called it a gift, but I said it in an inward dialogue. I want everybody I meet today. I want to tell them. I just want to tell them. I want to tell everybody I see today, you're going to heaven. A crook, you're going to heaven. A murderer, you're going to heaven.
Even if heaven is just a concept.
If it's a concept, you'll be there. And what am I basing it on? I ain't basing it on no book. I'm basing it on eternal essence. Please, if I'm not agreeing with you, please have enough common sense love to understand that I'm trying to explain something that you probably never heard, and if you have, it's okay. But I've come to a fork in the road where deep, when I saw Jesus' heart, the brokenness of his heart, I saw a heart that had no reservations in it, no sign of holding anything away from us
or against
us.
Yes,
please understand.
Yes,
if you are earthly minded, it's time for you to be some heavenly good. I'm having trouble trying to find words for this. I found this. I saw this. And it don't mean that you have to see like I do, but I saw this in a personal way. If you pick up a handful of sand, I saw as many people in heaven as the grain of sand that I could hold in my hand.
And it's important too, Pastor, to say that,
to
remind those of you who are in this spiritual community with us that we come from our background and our foundation is Christianity. So our language is going to be that way, but you're also listening to a mystic. So the mystic is one who has made his whole focus, our whole focus in life, experiencing and embodying that oneness with God. That has been the theme of our lives, both of us. And so when we speak, we're going to speak oneness. We're going to speak non-duality. We're going to speak even things that the Course says. We're going to speak things that Buddha says. We're going to say all of those things, but it's coming from the place where Jesus, our guru, taught us this or imparted it to us. So it'll have the same flavor as Christianity. So I don't want you guys who are outside of Christianity to get the feeling that we're trying to proselytize. We're not trying to proselytize, nor are we trying to compete with anything other than. So it's important that you remember, as you come into this spiritual community, you're coming into a community of a Christian mystic. Christian mystics talk the language of Christianity, but they go beyond into the metaphysical as well. And so you will hear us, we'll be all over the place. We'll talk in all over, in all religions, actually. And so, if you have this thought of, I wish they talk like this, then you're going to eventually get tired of this community, because this is what mystics do. Christian mystics talk like this.
I want you to be in heaven, whether you agree with me or not.
Yes. And you don't have to agree with us to love us, and we don't have to agree with you to love you.
I want you to be in heaven.
Yes.
Because I see God as a mercy and grace beyond every block and speed bump that the mind or the ego can put up in the church. I'm going to say it real nasty when I say this. Even in the Bible, I can see God changing the book to overrule everything that you've studied in the Bible that says you can't get there unless you do or unless you qualify according to the book. I see God putting you in heaven even though you don't qualify with the book.
Okay, that sounds good. That's good. I like that. Thank you, Laura. We love you, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're with us this morning.
What did she say?
She just says beautiful.
Yes.
And Sean's here. Hey, Sean. She says there are all kinds of movies, including Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, that have scenes showing us our real selves, separate from the physical body. That's true. Hollywood is teaching us as well. Yes. Some people think it's just fantasy, but it is not.
There is a minister that we watch sometime on YouTube, and his judgments and laws against, you name the most crucial, critical, sinful, adulterous thing that could ever be in a person's mind. He has already said that all these folks in Hollywood who wear certain things and don't dress a certain way. Do you know?
He's condemned all of them.
If you go to the worst strip joint you can find, I mean, where they're walking around there, everybody, when you hit the door, naked as a yard dog.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ is there. Christ's spirit cannot omit itself because the atmosphere does not qualify for heaven. I'm telling you, I can't. You might want to cut me off, cut me down, but I don't care. I don't care about that. All I see is a mercy and a grace that I never, ever thought. Please, when we started out, I would shut somebody down that's talking like I'm talking now.
Well, you've come light years away from judgment.
Heaven. God, I tell you the truth.
Light years. And every now and then we'll feel the pull of wanting to go back into it. But we've come so many.
I see forgiveness.
Lord, so far from where we were in the beginning. And I wanted to just mention a couple of the comments. Vincent says he couldn't find anyone to talk about us as eternal beings, but us. Well, I'm sure there's some others out there, Vincent, but thank you for that, sweetheart. And then Sinette says, it's like looking at our kids with love, no matter what they did, unconditional, just love. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then Pearl says, these guys are coming in, they're preaching
They
at us
coming
now.
now.
I remember years back you told us that we carry everyone in our loins.
Yeah.
The essence,
Essence of God. We do.
That was years ago.
Oh,
my
Miss Pearl,
Lord.
my God.
We've been talking this stuff.
Miss Pearl, I thought about coming to your house and just sit there and just talk about this stuff and just sit there and just talk about it. Oh, wow. I tell you, this stuff is right now. It's right. It's right. It's a love that the judgments of God, the judgment against God will not allow. It's a love. It's a love beyond the word LOVE. It's a grace beyond the word.
It's a love that does not exclude anyone from your spiritual community. No one. No matter what they believe, no matter what they think.
That's right.
It doesn't exclude anybody.
It is the truth of God everywhere, and not just in a book, but the true beingness of God in everything and everywhere we go and everyone we see.
I wanted to address something that Sean said. Hey, Sean, she said, this is a good question, by the way. So is it necessary to have a fear of death if we know we are eternal beings, although not knowing exactly where we're going after the body dies? Can I answer you, sweetie?
Yeah, go ahead.
You are going where you are now. You're going where you are now.
In your eternal self.
In your knower.
Eternal knowing.
Your realization.
Eternal realness.
Your recognition.
Eternal recognition.
Going where you are right now.
You are the gospel, the goings and the comings of God, and yet you never left. When I was on this highway in the sky, the question came about in my light body. God asked himself a question as my light self.
Yes.
How far is it from where I'm standing to the end of this highway in the sky? Yes. God asked the question as me and answered the question as me. And my feet took 3 steps and covered 1,000 miles, and yet I never moved.
And it's because your body is a sensory organ.
Did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
3 steps.
Your energy body is a sensory organ.
3 steps and never moved.
Yeah.
And at the end of those 3 steps, I still never moved. And I saw the city of God and the body of water, bluish water. And I looked up and I was transported to another location, and yet I never left God.
So all of those experiences taught you or imparted knowing to you.
Yeah.
Yes. And Sinette says, God is the love in which I forgive.
Yes.
Allowing love, dissolving this idea of sin. Yes.
What if I was to tell you that if you would hit the switch inside of every one of you now and go to your eternal forgiveness, infinite self, you would find out that you have already forgiven before you forgive.
Yes. Now, I'm going to read just a little bit of this.
Go ahead.
This is in a book called, and I don't know if this is backwards or not. It might be because Vincent said we were backwards the other day. This is Living Buddha, Living Christ by Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a Buddhist monk, and he has a chapter here called Touching Jesus. He said, my path to discovering Jesus as one of my spiritual ancestors was not easy. And then he goes on talking about the colonization of his country by the French. There was a lot of war and a lot of problems going on. And he said this, in the atmosphere of discrimination and injustice against non-Christians, it was difficult for me to discover the beauty of Jesus's teachings. It was only later, through friendships with Christian men and women who truly embodied the spirit of understanding and compassion of Jesus, that I have been able to touch the depths of Christianity. The moment I met Martin Luther King Jr., I knew I was in the presence of a holy person. Not just his good work, but his very being was a source of great inspiration for me. And others, less well known, have made me feel that Lord Jesus is still here with us. if you're going to claim any religion as your religion, you should embody it.
Mm-hmm.
You should be the very, if somebody says, I want to know what Jesus was like, you should be the one that they look at and say, I know who he's like now.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it should
Mm-hmm.
be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why you hear me often say, I know his address. I know what street he live on. I know what kind of car he drive. I know what he looks like. I know what he feels like. I know what he thinks
I
like.
know how he thinks.
I know how he
feels.
dress, everything.
I know how he processes things.
Yes.
I know how he responds, how he reacts. You know all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that by just being who you are. That's the awesome part of it.
What he should say there.
Vincent says, I can say I have left shows while shooting, packed my gear up, and left over $80,000 on the table. Hollywood is not godly. No, it's not godly, but it has some truth coming through it.
What if I would tell you that everybody in Hollywood would be in heaven? Your mind would say, no way.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and then you put a cause in there.
But that understanding we have, because we understand that everyone here, whether they be acting like whether they're acting loving and fair and kind, they are still playing the role, and it is God playing all roles.
Let me show you something.
For our evolution.
I'm coming from Greensboro. I'm in the middle lane, and there's a man sitting on the block. He appears to be homeless. I'm gonna just tell you raw, right straight what I did.
Okay.
I looked over at him at the stoplight, and I waited till traffic got cleared. I called him over to my Jeep. I reached in my pocket and gave him $100 bill, but that was the time when I wouldn't do that, because the first thing would come to my mind. If I give him this money, he'd ought to go down to the liquor store and get drunk.
And that's not even that's not.
No.
It doesn't even matter.
I reached in my pocket and gave him that, and I put no conditions on the end of it.
Did you see the video? I think it was a video on YouTube where these guys gave this homeless guy some money, and the guy that they gave it to, the homeless guy, cussed them out because he wanted more. He said, "This is all you're gonna give me." Yeah. Now, this is something that happened to us yesterday. We went to get us some late breakfast. And while we were there, of course, he said he met this other young man. And in the process of leaving, he wanted to pay for his breakfast. So he told the waitress, I'm going to take care of the young man down there in the inn. And she got confused and
it was somebody else
and thought it was someone else. And Mr. Penn, that was his name, Mr. Penn.
She thought was a policeman, but I didn't know it.
Mr. Penn. And so ended up, when we got to the cash register, we were paying for someone else other than the young man that he was talking about.
For 3 meals.
For Mr. Penn. So here you go. You can talk all day long to people, but until they see some love come out of it, people often say, God loves you. Jesus loves you. But it isn't enough for God and Jesus to love you. Do you love me? That's what people hear.
We've been in restaurants and went to pay for our food, and the waitress come around and said, it's already been taken care of. These people don't know anything about us.
Right. So yesterday we paid for Mr. Penn's breakfast. Even though we didn't know Mr. Penn, but we paid for Mr. Penn's breakfast. And then Adrian, the young man that you were really talking about, took our ticket and paid for ours.
Yes, he did. I want you to.
It's when they see the love. It's when they see the genuine caring. It's when they know you really care about them that it really gets through. It's not the words that gets through.
I was coming home one night. I got off to work at 12:31, and the wife and I were not married, and we were dating. And I got off Reynolds, and I lived not too far from the factory. I come down Church Street in Winston-Salem, and this man I saw laying out in the street. He was so intoxicated, he laying on the side of the sidewalk, and he couldn't walk. I stopped. I knew him because he'd been to my house when I was in my uncle bootlegging. He'd been to my uncle's house and where I lived. I stopped. I picked him up. Now you would say that if he hadn't accepted Jesus, he's going to hell because I didn't care whether he was saved or not.
Mm-hmm.
He deserved to be home. And if the policemen come by there, they'd have picked him up and locked him up, put him in jail for intoxication, whatever.
And
But I put him in my Jeep,
and
he told me where he lived. And I took him upstairs over a barber shop in an apartment, up the stairs.
You had to help him up the stairs?
I helped him upstairs. And when I got upstairs, y'all, that house, that section of floor apartment upstairs was filled with people just like him, staggering around. And I took him up there. That's where he lived. I've been seeing that man come to my house for years from a little boy, but I knew who he was. I don't know whether he knew me or not. That was Jesus. That was Christ that I picked up.
I was just reminded when we were first married, we purchased a mobile home and put it in the back of my mom and dad's yard and right behind their house. And we didn't preach to a lot of people, but it wasn't anything for somebody in the neighborhood. This was a neighborhood that when we first moved in, it was a very nice neighborhood, but it went down over the years because a lot of the homeowners died out and there were a lot of renters that came in. So there were a lot of drug addicted and alcoholics that came into that neighborhood.
You need to go by over there and see that house where they put where we used to live.
Yeah. But it wasn't anything for somebody to come knocking on our door.
That's right.
While we were in that trailer, they would come to our house crying.
That's right.
And we would have to help them, talk to them.
Yeah.
Pray with them, whatever. They were drawn to the trailer. So it isn't words that people hear.
This that we're saying is so simple that the mind can't believe it.
I know. People don't hear
this
words.
Is so God easy that the mind, religious mind,
it's God easy.
Bible scholar mind, religious brick and mortar minds, people that have been in the ministry for thousands of years look like. It's so easy that the mind cannot believe what we're talking about and will not accept it. But I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I expect to see everybody I meet in heaven from the time I was born physically to the time I leave physically. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. And I ain't hoping. I ain't hoping. I'm knowing. Yes. I feel the awesome. If you ever saw the heart of God and the grace of Christ, your true self, your bodies would explode.
Everyone
pure compassion.
Everyone we've heard that's had a near-death experience and came back, that died and came back, said that the love of God was so big and unfathomable that it actually, they couldn't even explain it. They couldn't even explain the love of God.
There was a person was wrapped up in the arms of Jesus.
There's Adrian. He came in this morning. Hey, Adrian. Thank you for coming in.
Oh, look, that's him.
He's a young man that we met yesterday.
Oh, look at him.
Yes, sir.
Oh, look at you. Oh, we just finished talking about you.
Yes, sir.
We just finished talking about you, Adrian. You and your wife.
He says, I've been on, but through YouTube and now with Facebook.
Oh, look at you.
I'm so glad you've been on here with us, Adrian.
Lord have mercy on Jesus Christ, baby Jesus, and his baby Jesus mama and Uncle Nisha's grandmama's boy. Look at you. Look at here. Look at here.
Now, Buzz says this is what coming to Christ, the coming of Christ means. Being kind, loving, and forgiving. And that's what people have missed. The second coming is not about some being or body cracking the sky. It's about the actual essence of God coming through us as physical beings. Pearl says God playing a part through all of us. All of us. Adrian says, interesting resume, my brother.
Adrian, I'm gonna tell you something. I feel chills all
Mm,
the presence of God.
mm, mm,
Yesterday when we left from that restaurant, I was seeing myself go around and tell everybody in there that they would be in heaven
mhm,
when you and I get there or before. I just got this, I just got this, I feel a gift of gold in my arms, and I want to give it to people
mhm.
who don't deserve it
And who do?
and who do deserve it. I see a
Mhm.
big heart of God all over the universe, and I don't want to change it.
Yes, yes. My sweetheart Janie is on here. Oh, I love you so much, Janie. Thank you for coming in to see us today. She said you speak to my heart, especially when you're all over the place. And we're all over the place this morning, that's for sure. Buzz says this: I struggle with guilt. Some people seem to think not feeling guilty means people would do terrible things and not feel bad about it. But forgiveness opens us up to love and be loved. Yes, I was listening to my Angelo yesterday, and she has a short YouTube video where she says, where it's entitled Love Liberates. And she mentioned how she was on the set of a movie, and there was this young man who was constantly cussing and in fights with everyone. And she said she went to him and she came up to him and she said, let me talk to you, son. Said, come here, let me talk to you. And she said, do you know how much you are needed? Do you know how much we need you? And she started talking to him about how beautiful he was, how much he meant to her and to the rest of the people. And do you know that changed that young man? That was Tupac. It was Tupac.
The real you knows that he is beyond the physical body. There's a you that believe that you are beyond the physical body, that it is beyond the physical body, but it operates in stillness.
Yeah, yeah,
Stillness speaks.
yeah.
I saw Jesus in that restaurant yesterday. He was very busy.
Yeah.
John and Zoe, the owners of that restaurant yesterday, we met them over here in Kernersville.
When they had the restaurant over
When they
here.
had when they had Cagney's, they used to own it. And
No, it's Zoe's.
Zoe, it was Zoe's.
That was her.
And we've been to their house. I could go right now, knock on their door, and they would be there if they're not in the restaurant now. And they are the most welcomed, energetic, welcoming, energetic people.
Yes, they are.
Adrian, they just like you. They just like all the people. I touched the man on the shoulder just before leaving the restaurant yesterday, and I wanted to tell him, I've seen all these people before.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a person that I've met on the earth that I haven't seen before
Mm-hmm.
in the eternal essence of God.
Yes.
I don't have any problem. So I used to base it on knowledge of physical senses, but now I'm basing it on eternal essence that's beyond the five
And it's
senses.
amazing how you can love someone that is a stranger as much as you love your closest relative. It's amazing. You can actually love them just as much, and there's no difference.
God will wake himself up in himself just to play the game like he's separated from himself in order to wake himself up to himself.
That's a lot of sense. That's a lot of sense. But let me read what Renee said. My sissy, this is my biological sissy. Hey, sissy. She says, so our beliefs veils the realization. Wait a minute, you laughing too much. Can you hear?
Yeah,
so she says, so our beliefs veils the realization of being. Yeah, that's true. Because I can believe something that'll keep me from seeing the truth. the smoke screen or clouds in the sky that hides or cover the sun. I heard you made me think of it, Sissy. I think it was Muji that says if you put your thumb up to the sun, your thumb will actually hide the sun. It will hide the sun. As big as the sun is, it will hide the sun. So yes, our beliefs always prevent us from seeing the truth. Vincent says, I have so many questions. I wish I could do a Zoom on this topic. It would be very insightful for me. Vincent, I bet you do, young man. I bet you do.
Adrian, I'd often say, and some of the people on here know, when we was in the building, there were
Where'd you went off? Where'd you go?
I was looking at
what Adrian said. Mary says good morning. Hey, Mary.
Mary, when I accepted the intuition, knowing that when Christ was born, we were inside of him in the womb of Mary as eternal essence. And we are now inside of every one of you guys out there now as the eternal essence that can never leave.
Yeah. Now let's speak to this, because I know Vincent. He said, my issue is dealing with the dealings of people in everyday living. I don't want to miss God nor run him off. Now, let me say this in all honesty, Vincent. We have our disagreements with some people, and some people really rub us the wrong way. We're not walking around with halos and wings. That is not what we're talking about. But they're even in the midst of them rubbing you the wrong way. It's the knowing that the reason they are playing that role is because there is something you're supposed to see and evolve into. And so that's what I call acid grace. Acid grace presents to us all kinds of challenging issues in order for us to evolve and to come into this place of absolute loving and absolute knowing. And we can't even really conceive of what that looks like. Jesus ran the people out of the temple when they were in there bargaining. So, I mean, you can't say this is what love looks like and try to be it. That's just the imposter trying to play the part. So it's not what Jesus would do, it's who Jesus is, and will you be what Jesus is. And so you can't predetermine how you're supposed to deal with any issue.
A man made a wrong turn on Main Street down here. Y'all heard me talk about it, and he was from Mexico, and I got a train horn on my Jeep, and I blew it, and it scared the heaven out of him.
And it made me mad. And it made me mad. It makes me mad every time I hear it.
It's so loud that it makes it's so loud that I believe Ezekiel and Jeremiah could hear it on the other side. And when I got to stop by, I rolled the window because I knew he was saying something. He cussed me out in Spanish.
And threw the finger up at you too. Yeah, he did.
The one with that finger didn't fall off.
I told him he made that man's ego pop out.
I did. I pulled it up.
But his ego popped it out. So you'll see the actor or the character that you play cause other people's characters to play and act out as well. So when you see it, even forgive that and realize that at that moment, hey, it popped up. I remember Judith Baldwin, she even named her little character, her actor. She named it. I can't remember what she gave it a name. She said, oh, there that little girl is again. And she would go on and not judge herself harshly, but not endorsing the behavior either. You can live in that neutral place. Buzz says this, I struggle with what to say or not say because I have a fear of offending people. Oh, baby. But I know what has helped me. Yes. And at some point you will evolve past wondering or having a fear of offending, because you will have, how do I want to say it? The one that is afraid of offending is the one that's dying. I'll say it like that. It's the one that's dying. And that's why you have the encounters where people don't like what you're saying, because that one has to die. That one wants to make sure everybody knows what it knows, and it will die. It will die. So it's okay. It's okay.
the way God has allowed himself in our form to experience him on the other side gives me an opportunity to go into a waiting room like at North Point Chrysler Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a chance to tell a lady when I walked in, the first thing I said to her, I said, did you have a wonderful Christmas? And she said, yes. I said, I did too. I said, I want to tell you that I had a chance to meet Jesus and the Christ in a near-death like experience. And when I started talking this, everybody, 10 or 12 people around could hear me. And since I've been standing in front of people for years, it's not hard for me to talk out in the open.
But I'll have to say this about you. You don't go at it like I want to preach to them.
No, I don't.
You have a conversation with them.
Yeah, it's conversation.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
I want to put up what Gerald says because our time is almost up, sweetheart. And someone says this, what Gerald says is good. I want to make sure that we get that in. It says, Gerald says, when traveling to the other side, the love is like a tractor beam filled with energy. It is intense, powerful, and ubiquitous. Love travels across the dimensions and is easily understood and heard by all involved. The essence is indistinguishable, not an individual. That's it. It's not an individual. It is not your person loving. It is only God loving.
Adrian, I'm going to give you a portion from information that I'd like to use for you to reach us. 5945 Woodfield Drive. I'll leave it at that. And you go from there. I just thought that ain't nothing wrong with that. They know where they can come, but I don't no phone calls.
The whole world can come.
Yeah,
because the whole world listens to this.
I know 5945 Woodfield Drive, and you can find us. I didn't give a phone number because I didn't want to get personal.
No, but they can find your house.
That's okay. That's okay.
I hope they all love us when they come.
They do. Everybody ain't gonna want to, but if they do, they can. I don't have no problem with that. I deliberately do that. I did that. I wanted to. And don't make no. You have a problem with that, but I don't.
Y'all pray for us.
Okay. Now, it is really wonderful. I'm open. I'm just that free. I don't have any problem with you guys. And I thank you so much that you are sending help to us financially to help us keep going. And I thank you for the gifts that you give and gave to us at Christmas time and my birthday. You did great.
Yeah, y'all good. Y'all
the greatest gift that we could ever receive from you is you.
Yes, and thank you, Gerald and Vincent, for sending in money to help us with the live stream.
Yeah.
The subscription that we're going to be paying, and then on the 20th of this month, which is $240. You guys did help us with that. Thank you so much. And I know the others of you will do whatever you can. If you need to give, and I know you do need to give in order to express the fact that you are already wealthy, you can text CLC Greensboro to 73256. By the way, when you text to Cornerstone, when you PayPal to Cornerstone, when you send the money to Cornerstone, Pastor and I don't bother.
We don't bother. We don't.
That is the church's.
That's the business.
Finances. We don't mess with that. The church gives us a housing.
That's right.
And what we get from you guys through Cash App and PayPal, that's for us personally.
I don't go crook on myself in the business. Okay.
Yeah, but just want to make sure that you understand that when you send it to Cornerstone, it's at Cornerstone. Cornerstone is its own 501c3 nonprofit entity, so it doesn't come directly to us.
I don't steal money from myself.
We got that.
Okay, we got that.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain it.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you want to give the pastor and I, and you have been, thank you so much you can go to Cash App $A Sawyer C or PayPal.me/ACE Sawyer 72. The easiest way for you to give for me has been to go to our website, which is thecornerstonelifecenter.com, and you'll see both donate buttons right there, and you can just go right to it.
That's right, Miss Brew. You got it right. Miss Pearl, see what
What
she
Miss
said
Pearl
there?
say?
She said, you didn't give the...
You didn't give the state or city.
That's right.
Thank God.
I didn't intend to.
Please don't give the state or city. And
Adrian understands.
Well, yeah.
That's
But
okay.
yeah. So anyway, Sister Chris, thank you, darling. She says, remember, it is the Christ in you that gives, that loves, that does all there is to do.
100%.
It is so freeing to know this and be able to move and do meaningful things in other people's lives. The heart does it all. Yes, ma'am. We love you guys so much. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Pearl. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, guys.
Katrina. And all of you guys who came in on us today. Thank you so much, Buzz and Israel. And oh man, all of you guys who were here. Adrian
everybody.
And Mary, I'm glad you guys were with us today.
Prairie,
we're going to take off here. We'll be back again on Tuesday night at 7. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Yep.
We will be back live.
Hold it in the middle of the road, tie it down on both sides, and keep working it.
And our sweetheart Oliver, thank you, Ollie, for being here with us today.
Oliver, you're great. You really helped us out.
Keely. And don't forget, Ollie has his own show on Friday nights at 7.
Sure do.
And I've been watching it. It's been good. He's been having guests on. He had a tax man on last Friday. Very informative. So please avail yourself, take advantage of that. And look at him. And then Pastor Norman and I will be back on Thursday at 12:30 for an impromptu.
That's right.
So just jump in there and watch us, okay? We love you so much. Have a great rest of the Sunday, and we love you. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.